Ultra-processed foods and colorectal cancer in men. For many Americans, the convenience of pre-cooked and instant meals may make it easy to overlook the less than ideal nutritional information, but a team led by researchers at Tufts University and Harvard University hope that will change after recently discovering a link between the high consumption of ultra-processed foods and an increased risk of colorectal cancer. In a study published August 31 in the BMJ, researchers found that men who consumed high rates of ultra-processed foods were at 29% higher risk for developing colorectal cancer, the third most diagnosed cancer in the United States, than men who consumed much smaller amounts. They did not find the same association in women. The study's lead author and postdoctoral fellow Lu Wang and her research team at Tufts University's Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy, thought that colorectal cancer could be the cancer most impacted by diet compared to other cancer types. Processed meats, most of which fall into the category of ultra-processed foods, are a strong risk factor for colorectal cancer. Ultra-processed foods, also high in added sugars and low in fiber, contribute to weight gain and obesity, which is an established risk factor for colorectal cancer. The study analyzed responses from over 200,000 participants, 159,907 women and 46,341 men, across 3 large prospective studies which assessed dietary intake and were conducted over more than 25 years. Each participant was provided with a food frequency questionnaire every 4 years and asked about the frequency of consumption of roughly 130 foods. For the study, participants' intake of ultra-processed foods was then classified into quintiles, ranging in value from the lowest consumption to the highest. Those in the highest quintile were identified as being the most at risk for developing colorectal cancer. Although there was a clear link identified for men, particularly in cases of colorectal cancer in the distal colon, the study did not find an overall increased risk for women who consumed higher amounts of ultra-processed foods. The impacts of ultra-processed foods. The analyses revealed differences in the ways that men and women consume ultra-processed foods and the prospective associated cancer risk. Out of the 206,000 participants followed for more than 25 years, the research team documented 1,294 cases of colorectal cancer among men, and 1,922 cases among women. The team found the strongest association between colorectal cancer and ultra-processed foods among men come from the meat, poultry, or fish-based, ready-to-eat products. These products include some processed meats like sausages, bacon, ham, and fish cakes. The team also found higher consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages, like soda, fruit-based beverages, and sugary milk-based beverages, is associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer in men. However, not all ultra-processed foods are equally harmful with regard to colorectal cancer risk. Researchers couldn't establish any direct link between ultra-processed dairy foods like yogurt and colorectal cancer risk among women. This may possibly be attributed to the difference in composition of ultra-processed foods consumed by women and men. Foods like yogurt can potentially counteract the harmful effects of other types of ultra-processed foods in women, Zhang said. Although ultra-processed foods are often associated with poor diet quality, There could be factors beyond the poor diet quality of ultra-processed foods that impact the risk of developing colorectal cancer. The potential role of food additives in altering gut microbiota, promoting inflammation, and contaminants. Analyzing the data. With more than a 90% follow-up rate from each of the 3 studies, the research team had ample data to process and review. Formed during food processing or migrated from food packaging may all promote cancer development, Zhang noted. Cancer takes years or even decades to develop, and from our epidemiological studies, we have shown the potential latency effect. It takes years to see an effect for certain exposure on cancer risk, said Zhang. Because of this lengthy process, it's important to have long-term exposure to data to better evaluate cancer risk. Changing dietary patterns. A previous study published by Zhang identified an increased dependence on ultra-processed food consumption in children and adolescents. Much of the dependence on these foods come down to factors like food access and convenience. Chemically processing foods can aid in extending shelf life, but many processed foods are less healthy than unprocessed alternatives. Consumers must be aware of the risks associated with consuming unhealthy foods in quantity and make the healthier options easier to choose instead. Long-term changes won't happen overnight, and require a multi-step approach. But the hope is that this study, among others, will contribute to changes in dietary regulations and recommendations. Researchers continue to examine how nutrition-related policies, dietary recommendations, recipe and formula changes, coupled with other healthy lifestyle habits, can improve overall health and reduce cancer burden.